All right, awesome. All right, good morning, everyone. It's May, and it's Monday morning, 9 a.m., so we'll call the meeting to order and ask for the approval of the April 1st, 2021 minutes. Someone please make a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes for the April meeting.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this, I don't think this meeting's gonna last really long here. I just want to keep putting this on the agenda each time, the discussion of the exam by BKD, Baker Tilly, and Taft. We still have not seen any clarity on that. I don't know if anybody has heard anything, or if we're still just kind of in limbo. I know we've spent a couple $100,000 maybe or more, so I'm just kind of wondering where we're at. But
Mr. Chairman, I haven't heard anything, but of course, there is the agreement that we were all parties to, that we would see this at the same time, see the results at the same time that administration sees them. And I hope this is not being slow-walked.
yeah,
So that I think it's time to get it over with and bring the results out.
yeah.
And
That way we can all move forward.
yeah, that's correct. So anyhow, I don't know that there's anything that we can do, but in the log of calls, I understand that there were, once this was launched, there would be no contacts from us to Baker Tilly or BKD, but there's been several contacts from the administration. So I don't know whether that's fair or not.
Okay.
They could say, how's this going, or whatever, and we would never know the difference.
Yeah, it'd be nice to just have a percentage of completion,
That's true.
as is often the case when you're on a project.
So, excuse me, while I have no update as to where we are, I've not heard anything, not seen anything, and I can't speak to where we would stand right now. I am excited to announce I'm meeting with the mayor this afternoon, and I'm confident he'll be able to provide me some details, so I'm excited to bring that back to you next meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay. All right, let's move on. Discussion of the budget versus actual or lack thereof. Again, this city council passed, I believe it was a resolution, where we would put together a budget versus actual. It happened the first time. It's really not that difficult to do. We've yet to see it since then from the administration discussing that budget versus actual. It would actually help on an ongoing basis as we start the budget process for the next year to obviously know where we've been, what we've been successful at, where we've been unsuccessful. So this city council, as we approve the budget for the following fiscal year, would have a little bit of insight as to how we're doing on budget versus actual. But again, we just have not seen anything. From that standpoint, obviously, people have asked, well, can't we make them do this? Can't we? Yeah, of course. I mean, we can spend a bunch of legal fees and argue with them, and it's just not worth it. Frankly, it's not worth it to the taxpayer. I would also say it's probably not worth it to the taxpayer to not have the information also. So, people have to judge for themselves. If you want an organization that doesn't report information to the city council, then you're on the right track. If you want an administration that does report information on budget versus actual to the city council and the finance committee, as I think it passed 7-0 on the city council.
Correct.
Then maybe that's something that ought to be looked into. Again, I will reiterate the same position I had last time. When you're asking us for millions of dollars for different projects, but you can't supply a simple budget versus actual and a detail of that budget versus actual, even if it's just a written overview by department heads or whomever, it's very difficult to say, hey, yeah, I'd love to give you $7 million for this. Here we're going to embark on several things with the fire station, new headquarters for the police, but again, if you come and ask me for $7 million and I say, you can't even tell me what you did with 100,000 or 400,000, you know, and I'm sure I'll be chastised for the public safety, but at the same time, it's just not a difficult process. Westfield has grown into a fairly larger city from my perspective, and I just don't think it's out of the realm of a good organization to be able to put together a budget versus actual, so.
I would add just two quick comments to that, Troy, if I can. And again, to your point, it's not something we're asking for simply as an exercise, but it helps the process as we're looking at the following year's budget, those conversations are starting up right now. We're in the process of starting that. But the most important thing, and again, that just makes our life a little bit easier when we're looking at the budgets next year. So if we don't want to make our life easier, or if we can't quite seem to find a way to make our life easier, I guess we'll just continue to march on and figure out a way to make it work. But the most overwhelming thing here is these are the taxpayers' dollars. And so not only does this report need to be available for us to make our life a little bit easier, but it needs to be available for the taxpayers to see where their dollars are being spent. And that, to me, that's the most important, absolute most important part.
Yeah,
And
if they're meeting their own expectations.
Correct. And everybody here talked about transparency. I believe everyone on the council, certainly everyone on this finance committee talked about transparency. And I know there's nothing, I'm confident there's nothing that there's no reason we're trying not to be transparent, but we certainly give the appearance of resistance to that, so.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Discussion of State Road 32 costs, East Street, Jersey Street extension. Jeremy, I know you're here. So, hey, thank you very much, by the way, for putting together the, I saw the email and I went through the email of the costs. Correct? That was the 3 point something. I can't remember off the top of my head.
For which project?
The East Street, Jersey extension going down.
Yeah, roughly 3.85.
Yeah, okay, that was good. So I just, which, that was one of the things I had asked for, and I really appreciate you doing that. And, I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's a good cost or not. I mean, it seems reasonable to me. I mean, frankly.
It's the best estimate we have at the current time.
Yeah. So we have to, and part of that, a lot of the cost is buying the property, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Right away is very expensive.
Okay. And then, I guess one of my questions is, and again, just because I don't know, I mean, for my information, when we do that, is there a way to recoup any of that when people, because presumably commercial will go in on either side of that East Street, Jersey Street extension. Do we recoup any of that from people? Like, do we put the sewers in, or who does all that?
We do not. We put the storm sewers in. As far as water and sanitary from a utility perspective, we do not pay for those costs.
Okay.
Developer would, or if citizens would elect to, with the project or separate from the project, and they have the right to be in the right of way. As far as if there is excess right of way, do we recoup some of those costs? It's possible if the council wants to relinquish some of that excess right of way. There's a disposal process which goes through an RFP.
How does that work? I mean, I seriously have no clue.
We haven't done a ton of it either, just because we try not to buy more than what we need. But in a situation where there is a total take because the road is impacting a home or something of that nature, there sometimes is excess right of way. It is, once the project is complete, we're out of the way, closed out, it can be defined as excess right of way. And then, and I'm probably not the perfect person for this, it needs to go through a legal process, but there's an RFP, so a closed bid for these excess parcels. And much like what happened down here for Union Square, whoever is the winner, the highest bid gets
We just sell them off.
Yeah,
right?
we sell it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Or we can hold it and utilize it to motivate development as part of
Okay.
incentivization for development.
Okay.
And I believe that requires a process too, but again, we'd have to talk to some attorneys.
Yeah. Have we done any analysis as to how much of that we're going to have or area we're gonna have? I mean,
We haven't, not at this
Okay.
point. I mean, it's still not like an official project that's moving
too
forward.
early or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Jeremy, you're talking about East Street or,
Jersey Street is
Jersey
what we
Street.
were specifically talking
that's the
about. Yeah.
3.85?
Yeah, and NDOT would have the same process for State Road 32. Because NDOT's buying the right-of-way, will own the right-of-way because State Road 32 is obviously a state road.
Yeah. Okay. I really don't have a whole lot of questions on it. I mean, you-
I appreciate you putting that
yeah,
information together.
yeah, thank you
Sure.
very much.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move to the 9:30 a.m. discussion. So this is something that I put on here. This has been, even on social media, some of the people have commented about this. The mayor and I, in our last meeting that we had, which was probably about 2 months ago at this point, discussed this, or maybe a month and a half ago, whatever. It's the discussion of the tax base in Westfield and future approval of density versus lot size. So, one of the things that I think we need to see as a city, and when I sat down with the mayor, we went through the map and what they consider the comprehensive plan at this point, and where those boundaries are. And outside of those boundaries, we've had developers buying property outside of those boundaries with the intent of developing that property at some point in time. And so the mayor and I had a discussion, and I'm going to repeat what I thought we discussed. I think my question to him was, where are we at from a tax base from Westfield? Do we have enough tax base at this point in time to cover all our expenses, our future expenses, and what will be forthcoming with road improvements and et cetera, et cetera? And the answer was yes. So at that point, I said, well, then why do we need to fill up the rest of the green space outside of that comprehensive area? And he said, well, land developers have counted on developing that. And as I've made comments before, our job is not to land guarantee, they actually call it land speculation. And as long as I'm on the city council, I think at this point in time, if anything comes in front of us where someone has not purchased land in the past with the intent on developing it within those boundaries that we have designed, I would say that those lot sizes need to be over a half acre or 3/4 of an acre. Because otherwise, we are going to fill in the density, and instead of being the 75,000 population where we are expected to be with the current drawings, we're actually going to be more like 100,000. And then we are going to see more and more congestion. We're going to have more discussions on, well, this road needs to be 4 lanes, we need to have this tunnel, we need to have this overpass. And I think that's something that we really need to take a look at from a city council standpoint. And it only comes to the city council from a standpoint of finances. So when we look at the finances of Westfield, we have to think of replacement cost of the things that we're putting in, whether it be Grand Junction, Grand Park, or anything else. Obviously, in 30 years, those buildings, those fields, those, things will become worn out. I think I've mentioned this several times before, that, we need to have a fund where we're contributing to so that we are not burdening the taxpayer of tomorrow. If we want to do that, we should all run for a seat in Washington, and we can put, we can just keep creating Westfield money and creating this perpetual debt system that always burdens the people of tomorrow. And I do understand that everybody in Westfield wants to be the last person that moves here, and then everything goes about being. That's obviously not going to happen. But I just think it's something that we need to really put some serious thought into and lay the groundwork, not just for the next year, but for the next 10 years, as opposed to waiting for 10 years and then getting to it. Scott, Joe?
So, Councilor Pat and I agree with that completely. Here's the follow-up question that I would ask to that. We've had those conversations since January of 2020, and They've been conversations. We've had some discussions with the administration trying to figure out how do we move this forward, or let's at least entertain these conversations. And we've had those conversations, I believe, multiple times. How do we move that forward and create a plan or put something in action other than simply stating out loud that, yes, I agree. If something's not already zoned for something, for my terminology, high-density housing, anything new that's coming in, we need to go to larger lot size and those type of things. And other than simply that vote, how do we come together with the administration and kind of figure out, okay, here are the actual dollars, here are the tax dollars, here's what we're counting on, here's how we're going to put extra dollars aside and kind of control this moving forward.
Yeah.
How do we make it happen? How do we make it move beyond the conversation state?
Yeah, so, off the top of my head, I mean, is what I think it has to start at the APC, and the APC needs to know where the city council stands on density. I've even heard some of those people on the city council that are not appointed by city council, or excuse me, APC, appointed by city council, state similar things. But then we continue to approve, neighborhoods with, 0.2 acre lots. And frankly, we all did it last meeting. I mean, I get it. So I think we need to just send the message to the APC that says, this is where we're headed. One of the questions to ask every developer is, when did you buy this land and what was the intent? What was the intent?
What was zoned?
From the zoning standpoint. And then it's going to start, and then I think, it puts the developer community on notice. And I know Mike's here, so I mean, that's what I'm saying, kind of pointing this out, but this is maybe something that needs to be taken to the APC side, and then that way, if it comes to us and it doesn't meet those parameters, then, anybody that doesn't want to do that can vote no. If everybody's okay with the continuation of the real estate the way it is, they can vote yes. And I think there's certain areas, so for instance, like when we're talking about downtown, if we're gonna put in townhomes, that may be one thing, right? But if we're gonna look somewhere else, unless it's a maybe over 55 community or something of that nature, why do we need, and everybody says, well, we need affordable housing. Hey, here's a news flash, there is no affordable housing in Westfield at this point. I mean, it's over. I mean, if a 2,500 square foot home, I don't know if anybody saw this the other day in the Wall Street Journal, but it was up, the cost of that home, it went up $40,000 because of lumber. And prices are escalating faster than wages. So, that's something that we're just gonna have to wrestle with. And I hate to say it, but the affordable housing that's in Westfield today may be the only affordable housing that is affordable, because I mean, I can go over here and look at a ranch, about a 1,500 square foot ranch that's selling for in the upper threes to low fours. I mean, that's not affordable for a family of four, someone mom or dad making $50,000 a year.
Here's another thing too. This struggle has gone on for a long time, and we hear you cannot get the development community mad at you by not approving these, I call them little pink houses, to quote John Mellencamp.
Yeah.
But we've got an abundance of apartments and those smaller homes. We need to begin to, on the fringes especially, ask for larger lots. I think that will be done here on the city council rather than at the plan commission. The plan commission, I mean, they've got 9 members. Sometimes things get, if you meet all the legal requirements, well, there you are. But our judgment does not have to be that tight. Our judgment can say, we don't want that.
Yeah.
I live on Union Street. Years ago, I struggled with, there was an apartment dwelling on Union Street that was coming in. I didn't like it, but it's there. Now I see there's 2 houses torn down on Union Street, which used to be the street of homes in Westfield. And I wonder what's coming from those 2 houses, whether we'll have more little pink houses or what we're gonna have. But I think it's time to turn the tide on that and stand up. And there's 3 of us here probably that think the same way. We get the 4th one where we can make it happen. But,
Yeah.
So Joe, I again, don't disagree with that. I would just point out the way you phrase that, we don't want to get the developers mad at us, or that seems to be the perception. You know, we got to be careful so we don't get those developers mad at us. I just want to point out that, first of all, I think we're doing a really good job working with the developers. And I commend them for being responsive to what we've asked of them so far.
Agree.
But I don't think it needs to be, I don't think anybody out there should view it as, you know, if we say no, that means, hey, a developer's going to be mad. Here's the bottom line. We're here to represent the taxpayers, period. And as long as we keep that focus, and I know I certainly intend to, as long as we keep that focus, you know, everything else just kind of, those chips fall where they may.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And it all boils down, again, back to the finances. I mean, if we have the tax base and we have a sufficient tax base willing to, that it's able to pay for the amenities that we have, you know, I mean, I don't see the rush in saying, oh my gosh, we have to approve every single home, every
Correct.
single development. You know,
Every time you put a house, a roof up, where it's an abode or an apartment, you have the chance that the police or the fire have to, you know, respond to pleas for help from that area. Now, they don't all, of course, make pleas for help. But if you have a higher density of that, you're gonna get more pleas with less dollars,
Right.
basically, is what it amounts to. And I think it's not our fault, it's not the city's fault, but if you looked at your tax statements this time, as I did, I own half of a vacant lot next to me, and I'm taxed $220 on that vacant lot. Well, property taxes are the real payer of safety, fire and police.
right,
They rely almost totally on property tax dollars. And so we've got to be careful how we do that. Are we tying them down where we need more policemen and firemen all the time? And you know, we almost get on a treadmill there. And I think that's what you're saying. We got to be careful
yeah,
what we do so that we don't cause them to have to reduce their services somehow. I mean, they'll
Right.
make it fit, but it might not be to what we would like.
right, yeah. And that's all I have, gentlemen. Anybody else have anything?
No, I would just add, again, reiterate what I mentioned earlier, where we've had conversations. A lot of these things on the agenda aren't new. They're not new requests. They're not the first time we've discussed them, whether it be city council, whether it be here as part of the finance committee. Some of these conversations date back to January 13th of 2020, which, for those of you that don't have your calendar in front of you, it was our first day on city council. So I'm very anxious, very excited to figure out how we can move beyond the conversation stage, with the finance committee, the city council, and the administration, and move beyond the stage where we look at each other and nod our heads and say, well, we can do that. We can make that happen. We can have those conversations. We can look at those numbers. I want to see us actually put this into motion. Unfortunately, the 3 of us sitting here, all we can do is ask. All we can do is, at this point, say this is what we need, this is what we intend to do. We need some cooperation to make it move forward.
And I think we can do a lot of it in the budget process this year.
Yep.
Period. I think that's where you know, the rubber meets the road this year, so. Okay, that's all I have. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.